This morning I want to talk a little bit about safety for women walking alone on the Camino. I had a bit of a heated discussion this morning with one woman um, about walking on the Camino alone and whether or not it was safe for women. And it really made me start thinking about this seriously. One of the reasons I chose the Camino, I'm sorry about this light in my eyes, I just don't see any way to get rid of it. Maybe I'll look down under my glasses. Um, One of the reasons I chose the Camino as a place to walk was because I felt it was a safe place for a woman to walk alone. And that really hasn't changed for me. I still feel it's one of the safest places for a woman to walk alone in the world. Now, that doesn't mean it's entirely safe, and I'm not invalidating anybody's experience with being either assaulted or confronted by a flasher on the Camino, because I know those things happen. But those things happen everywhere, and no matter where they happen, they can be quite traumatic. And I guess that also depends on you. I had a flasher flash me on the Portland, Oregon Burnside Bridge one time in rush hour traffic. I was on my bicycle. As I rode past, man, he pulled down his pants and went to town. I almost dropped my bicycle, not because it scared me, but because it made me laugh so hard. It was just so ludicrous for him to be in rush hour traffic jacking off on the Burnside Bridge. But I can imagine being alone out in the woods somewhere on the Camino and having something like that happen could be pretty traumatic because you don't know where it's going to go from there. Granted, most of the evidence shows that probably 60 to 65% of those events never turn into an actual assault um, because the thing is, the person who's doing it is doing it for the shock value. They're getting off by how much shock they they cause you. Um, if you're afraid, they really think, boy, they're a big man. But the fact is, if you just ignore them and walk on by, probably nothing's going to happen. Or if you confront them, probably nothing's going to happen. But you can't be sure. So the best thing to do is just avert your eyes and keep walking by, and then immediately report it. And I'm going to give you some statistics here to maybe put things into perspective in a few minutes. But I know that on the Camino Forum run by Ivor, there have been several um, assaults reported, or not assaults really, but flashers reported over the years. I went back as far as 2015, and probably all in all, I can count 10 that have been reported. Now, that's only on this forum, I realize, but most of those were never reported to the authorities. And people, if you don't report it to authorities, nothing can be done. Peregrina 2000 on the Camino Santiago forum reported that she had been flashed 7 or 8 times in Spain and never in Portugal. Most of the reports that I've seen were in Portugal, so I just don't know. But she also posted current law, and I'm going to read that to you. The penal code, the criminal law, only punishes flashing when it is done before minors or the handicapped. The new law from 2015, the law of citizen security, is not a criminal law. It is what in Spain is referred to as an administrative law. Flashing or exhibitionism under that law is categorized as a minor infraction and carries with it a fine of 100 to 600 euros. All people of any age or ability are protected under that law, but nobody can be arrested or detained by the police for a minor infraction. If a perpetrator doesn't carry ID with him when stopped, he can be brought into the station, but technically that's not because of the infraction, but because of the lack of ID. The administrative law prohibits attempts against sexual freedom or incidents that cause damage to your sexuality. Peregrina says, "It took me a while to understand how flashing me can harm my sexuality or my sexual freedom, but my friend explained it in these terms," though I'm translating here. "We are all free to enjoy our own sexuality as long as we respect the sexuality of others. If someone masturbates in my presence against my will, he is infringing on my sexual freedom because he's obliging me to watch it, and nobody has the right to upset my own sexual equilibrium without my consent." She reports this new law accomplished a couple of changes in Spain. Before the law, each municipality had the option to pass its own administrative ordinance against flashing or not. But the new law applies throughout all of Spain. It standardizes the fine level from 100 to 600 euros. A woman named Katharina, who I believe lives in Spain, reported, "As I learned about it by chance today, I mention this for potential future reference. The Spanish Parliament is currently debating a proposal for a law known in Spain as Solo Si es Si law. This means the final version of the law is not yet fixed and is not yet in force, but the proposal addresses apparent shortcomings in the Spanish Penal Code concerning the definition of sexual assault. From what she has read about it, it could include acts such as masturbation in public in the presence of non-consenting adults, which could open the possibility of other sanctions rather than the current option of an administrative fine." And so that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. At least they're looking at it. And people that live along the Camino and count on it for their income don't like these guys. They want them punished. So that means a lot also. When it hits them in the pocketbook, that means a lot. So I just want to put this into perspective just a bit. Yes, it's traumatizing. Yes, it can really be frightening, but it can happen anywhere. Go to your own town's police report and look up statistics in your own town. How many sexual assaults were there? How many incidences of peeping toms or of people masturbating in public or flashers? It happens all the time everywhere. I looked at New York City. In New York City, there were 38 in 1 week. Okay, that's 3 times the number in many years on the Camino. In San Francisco, there were over 1,000 in half of a year. Okay, that's 109 times more than on the Camino. In my own town, or the town closest to me, Portland, Oregon, there were 506 times more events than on the Camino. So yes, events like this do happen on the Camino, but when you put it into perspective, they happen so fewer times than in your own city. To me, it's just so much safer walking on the Camino. Now, that said, what can a woman do if she's assaulted or if there's a flasher? And the very first thing you need to do is report it. First of all, ignore him. If he's masturbating, just ignore him and walk on by, because what he wants you to do is go, because that makes him think he's a big man and he's got a big dick and you're scared by it. Okay, don't do that. Don't give him the satisfaction. Just avert your eyes and keep walking by. If he touches me, that's a whole other matter. I probably am going to use my stick on him if he touches me. But if he's only exposing himself, I wouldn't hit him, because what he's doing is considered a minor offense, and what you're doing, hitting him, is considered a major offense, and you could be the one who's fined or goes to jail. So the first thing I would do is get it out of the area. The second thing I would do is report. You have to report these incidences, because if you don't, nothing can be done. And believe me, the people of Spain that live along the Camino and depend upon it for their income don't want this happening, and their ears are gonna perk up if it's happening near their village. So report. There are different ways you can report. You can walk to the next albergue and report it there, or go to the police station there and report it. Make note of the surroundings and exactly where you are if you can remember. Make note of what he looks like if you can glance at him quickly. You can call 112, which is the emergency number in Spain. Be sure that you remember that. There's an app that you can get on your phone or for your iPhone called Alert a Cop. If you have a Spanish SIM card, it works better. I understand if you don't, there may be a code that you need that some people didn't get. I always get a Spanish SIM card and replace the one in my phone with the Spanish SIM card. It's like 20 euros, and it makes it really easy for me to call all over Spain and really cheap for me to call all over Spain. So I go to Vodafone and get a Spanish SIM card. So the Alert a Cop app will definitely work if you have a Spanish SIM card, but you can look into that and see if it'll work on your phone. But report it, people, because if you don't report it, they can't do anything about it. And if someone's harassing pilgrims on the Camino and they do it more than once, they're going to perk up about it. Something's going to be done. So please report it, report it, report it. What can you do to feel more safe walking on the Camino as a woman? First of all, don't be stupid. Don't walk at night or in the dark. Some people start off in the dark, and if you're a woman walking alone in any city in the United States or anywhere in the world in the dark, you're being very naive, in my opinion. Don't walk in the dark. Wait till daylight. You can make friends along the Camino and walk with someone if you know there's going to be a stretch that you're walking that is remote and not near villages. You can walk behind other pilgrims or in front of other pilgrims so there's someone within calling distance. You can just stay alert to your surroundings. Don't wear earphones in your ears. If you're wearing earphones, listen to music. You can't hear twigs snap behind you. You can't hear someone coming up behind you. To me, no matter where you're walking, in the United States or on the Camino, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You can't hear a bicycle coming up behind you. And believe me, there are more pilgrims injured by bicycles than there are women accosted on the Camino. So don't wear earphones. Be aware of your surroundings. Listen to what's going on around you. Carry a big stick. I had the conversation with a woman about carrying a stick. I carry a stick mostly so I don't fall. But if I had a big stick and some guy tried to touch me, probably I would beat the hell out of him if I could, or at least hit him. If he's touched you, that makes his offense no longer a minor offense. So use your own judgment with that. Yeah, so just, use your sense. But the most important thing I can say if this happens is try not to take it to heart, which I know is hard. You would take it to heart. Take a look at Sarah Duma's videos and see how afterwards she wasn't going to let that asshole keep her from walking the Camino. That was one incident in many, many, many miles that she's walked. She did the right thing. She reported it. She took him to court and got him off the Camino. And then she just kept walking. She did not become a victim. To me, she was a wonderful example of a strong woman, a strong peregrina. So be strong. Know that a lot of people are behind you, and people are going to do something about it if you report it, but you have to report it. So those are my suggestions. Don't be afraid. The Camino is safe. Don't walk in the dark. Don't wear earphones. Be aware of your surroundings. And if someone does flash you, report it. And by all means, if someone touches you, report it. But I think reporting it is the most important thing here. And then just moving on, if you can. Try your best not to be traumatized, although I admit it's traumatizing, but don't let the jerk get to you. Keep on walking. Buen Camino.